Hello there, and welcome back to the channel. Mad Mike here, and today we're going to be going over something that is a bit more of I wouldn't say a personal thing, but it's a sequel to a movie that was a very big part of my childhood, and that is Space Jam. And if you grew up in the 90s, you know what Space Jam is. And you probably loved it if you were a kid and watched it and especially if you were a basketball fan and watched it. I wasn't even a basketball fan. The only thing I knew about Michael Jordan was that he played with the Looney Tunes when I was a kid. That's really the only thing that I knew until I got a little bit older and realized that he was the greatest basketball player of all time. But recently, or I shouldn't say recently, but in the last few years, they've built up an idea for a Space Jam 2, and it's going to be the Looney Tunes and LeBron James. And we all now have to take a collective sigh and look at Hollywood again for trying to hook us on nostalgia. Because, look, I love Space Jam. I honestly do. I never want to see anything else. And you know what? If they had made a sequel a few years later, then I probably would have watched it. I probably would have loved it when I was a kid. May have not been as good as the first, but I get it. But Space Jam was a microcosm in 1996. It was lightning in a bottle in 1996, and kids loved it because you want to know why? Everybody loved Michael Jordan. Even the people he beat loved Michael Jordan. And that's a large portion of why that film works so well. And you can watch it as, I own it on Blu-ray. I've watched it as an adult, and even though the Looney Tunes stuff is still kind of funny, and there's actually some pretty funny actual movie references in it. There's a Pulp Fiction reference with Elmer Fudd and Yosemite Sam. There's a reference from about Dan Aykroyd when Bill Murray shows up to the basketball game. I mean, it's kind of funny when you watch it as an adult, because when you were a little kid, you obviously all those kind of jokes just went over your head. But as an adult, you get them a little bit more. Kind of like the Three Stooges a little bit, but I'm going off on a tangent. The point is that Space Jam was perfect for the time it was made, and it's literally a microcosm of 1996. I don't think you can do that today, and I don't think you can do it with LeBron James, and I don't think there's anybody in the NBA right now that you could do it with. Because here's the thing. Again, you can say that Michael Jordan was an asshole in his personal life. You can honestly say that about a lot of basketball players, and you can say it about him. And there's been tons of stories that have come out in the years since he's played about how the gambling habits and all that other crap that he used to do, and it was never publicized in the 90s, and he had all the advertising campaigns, he had the Air Jordans, he had the I Want to Be Like Mike, all that stuff. And you can look at LeBron James as being a bit more of a squeaky clean player, but at the same time, LeBron James is kind of a douche. I don't really care for him. He has probably had the douchiest moment in professional sports with the "I'm taking my talents to South Beach" 45-minute special on ESPN. I think it was 45 minutes, where that's literally the only thing that he said was that he was going to go to South Beach instead of staying in Cleveland. And I don't think you can do it with him because he's not beloved like Michael Jordan was. He's not the guy. Everybody has always compared LeBron James to Michael Jordan. LeBron James is a great basketball player. He is probably I shouldn't say probably. He is the best basketball player playing right now. I would say, and probably the best single basketball player that has been playing in the last 3 to 5 years. And he will be a first ballot Hall of Famer after he retires. Even if he retired tomorrow, he probably would be. But he is not Michael Jordan. He will never be Michael Jordan. He can never be Michael Jordan. Even if he wins 100 titles, he could never be Michael Jordan because he does not have the type of charisma that Michael Jordan had in the 90s. That everything just encapsulated him and the Chicago Bulls. And even when he went away to play baseball, the story was not that all these other great players were still playing in the NBA and they were getting focused on, it was, where the hell's Michael Jordan? Why is he playing baseball? And that says a lot. That says a lot about Michael Jordan's playing ability and in relation to the people around him. And it really, he owned the 90s as a player. He owned that entire decade. Even when he wasn't on the court, he owned it, because the whole story was that he wasn't on the court. But, going away from that, Space Jam captured that at its height. It captured that when Michael Jordan was in the middle of his career. He was at his peak. He was coming back from playing baseball to come back to the Bulls, and then he won 3 straight titles after that. But LeBron James does not have the ability to do that. And to try and center a Space Jam movie around LeBron James and we all know what they're going to do. They're just going to do the same damn thing all over again. They're going to have aliens come to Earth and beat up the Looney Tunes and challenge them to a game of basketball, and then they steal talent from players and yada, yada, yada. They're going to do the same damn thing all over again. They're just going to replace Michael Jordan with LeBron James. Now, I will say that I think LeBron James might be a better actor than Michael Jordan, because Michael Jordan's acting in Space Jam is basically enough to get by for little kids. If you watch it as an adult, it's almost, if you're a fan of good acting, it's almost like watching nails on a chalkboard. But it is made up by the Looney Tunes. It's made up by Bill Murray. It's made up by I can't remember his name, but Newman from Seinfeld. It's made up by all those the side characters. And really, Michael Jordan shines doing his stuff on the court. That's what he shines at. He has a couple of good lines in the movie, and I get that. But if he has to do an extended monologue, it really does kind of hit you in that this feels like he's reading off a cue card type of way. But again, even regardless of that, I don't think you can get away with that these days. Having a movie like a Space Jam, and especially titling it Space Jam 2. If you're doing a reboot and you're just gonna title it Space Jam and then gonna call it, it's like Ghostbusters 2016, you'll call it Space Jam 2020 or whatever. Then whatever, you're gonna reboot it. It's probably gonna suck. It's probably not gonna make a lot of money. Because again, you're not encapsulating the same thing. When you look at what Michael Jordan had a merchandising empire. He had Air Jordans. He had everything else. He was doing Coca-Cola ads. He was on the cover of Wheaties. I mean, you couldn't go into a store and not see a Michael Jordan jersey or something around the building. If you went into any kind of a store that had anything in it, even grocery stores and everything like that, you couldn't go someplace and not see Michael Jordan. LeBron James is not the same thing, and he will never be the same thing. And that is why that movie, I think, will inevitably fail. Now, the news that came out about the film is that it will be filming this summer in the NBA offseason to obviously accommodate LeBron James and any other NBA stars who will be in the movie, which I believe at this point none of them have been named. In the original Space Jam, you had obviously Michael Jordan, you had Patrick Ewing, Charles Barkley, a lot of high-end NBA players at the time, because even if you didn't have MJ, you still got some other guys that were around the league, and also Charles Barkley is goddamn hilarious. But apparently they're going to be filming it this summer, and it is scheduled for a 2021 release, because they do need to do all the animation, and apparently that takes a very long time. So we can't really expect any more large updates on this. I would expect until the summertime or later. And then I wouldn't even expect the trailer until maybe middle of next year, probably next summer. They'll have a trailer or something, or at least a teaser or something like that. But this, I don't think that this is a good thing for Hollywood to do, because they've done stuff like this before. They played on nostalgia, and it doesn't necessarily work. You can't drudge something up that's a microcosm of a certain period of time and present it to a modern day audience and kind of expect them to get it. Again, there are certain things that worked at certain times for certain reasons, and kind of the stars had to align. Space Jam is one of those things. A lot of people that grew up in the 80s hate Space Jam. They hate it with a passion. And a lot of kids that grew up today probably don't even know what it is. Or if they do, they just, it's this goofy movie with this, old basketball player. But in the 90s, if you grew up in the 90s, you probably watched Space Jam. I had the VHS when I was a little kid. I have the Blu-ray now. I had the novelization of it, for Christ's sake. But the point still stands is that I don't think you can't create a microcosm. A microcosm just sort of happens. I don't think anybody expected Space Jam to be as iconic as it was when it came out. And I don't think the second one is going to be able to recapture that at all. And you know that time will tell. Time will tell whether or not I am right on that. And it could just be because I'm bitter that they're dredging up another childhood franchise of mine. I'm probably going to destroy it. That's very likely. But at the same time, I try to be from an objective point of view, and from an objective point of view, I don't think it can work. I don't think it can work with LeBron James at the soul of that film. And if they just do the same plot all over again and don't do anything original with it, and don't really do anything that updates it or makes it different or makes it better, then I think that movie will fail. It will fail. It will fall flat on its face, because you can't do the exact same thing you did in 1996 and just replace Michael Jordan with LeBron James. It will never work. So that's my take on that. Put your take on it in the comments. Are you a fan of the original film? Would you like to see a sequel? Do you think LeBron James would be a good stand-in for Michael Jordan? And remember, leave a like on the video, hit the bell for notifications, subscribe, and remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?